We had all of 30 seconds to prepare for this call. So here we go. I think
That keeps
we,
it fresh, right?
but yeah, well, how's your week this week? I noticed we were just saying it's kind of quiet in the news, like in terms of like scouring what's going on in our sectors for news. Surprisingly quiet.
It's funny because I think that one, it probably comes with the summer. And like all industries, I think there's ebbs and flows. There's times where there's a lot of things released in the industry, and there's a time when, things are held back. I don't think August is typically a heavy season until we start to get into back to school.
Do you have like a season for work? I don't know if you have like I always find August, especially the last 2 weeks of August. The last 2 weeks, I actually schedule it. It's actually on my calendar. It says stealth mode, where I literally am not going anywhere. I just like am working. Like that's for me to kind of because I feel like September's like back to school, so I kind
Mhm.
of prepare and stuff. And I do the same thing the first weeks of Jan. Do you have like something like that? And August tends to be I want to work on the projects that I'm launching and stuff like that.
I think for my customers, a lot of them do have summer off. They take the summer off. They start back up like the last week of August. September is generally a very heavy month for me. Then everybody who wants to do their like new year, new me, new brand, new concepts. So the end of December, which is kind of a weird time to be busy, into the first bit of January and also March. It's interesting
Yeah,
how
March too.
spring just triggers that, something new, right?
Hmm.
The refresh. I find a lot of businesses in the spring, that's when they're coming for a refresh, whether it's a brand refresh or a website refresh or a full refresh of everything. Spring seems to be the time that people want to do that.
Yeah, it's accurate. That's I think that's exactly what I experienced. September and March are like a bit of spikes. I get a lot of like little percolation happening in August, like hints at it,
Mhm.
but for me, because I have not just my own branding practice working with clients, I have to sometimes carve out like how am I going to get my community stuff built, my courses I'm writing, getting ready for like launching this new show. I got a couple other
Mhm.
ideas that I want to develop. So just getting the internal my own marketing done. It's kind of August is like one of those periods where I kind of look forward to it because it's like I get to be a little selfish and work on my own stuff.
You got to work on your own personal branding.
Yeah, I mean, I'm still working with client stuff, but I intentionally carve out more time. Like all day today, I got to work on just a few little tiddly things that I wanted to work on with client stuff, but I'm working on all on stuff that I'm preparing to launch. Like I've got a big launch on September 22nd. I don't know if I told you this. Did I tell you about the Mindful Marketer course that I'm launching?
Is that with the
Guru
guru?
thing. Yeah, so it's like so I think I told you a little bit about it. It was I had Guru sing on a podcast. He was recommended to me by somebody. He's a third generation yogi. He looks like a guru. He's got like a long beard and a turban and stuff, and he's so funny. And I did a podcast with him, and we just riffed really well. And it
Mhm.
was really about this intersection about universe, laws of nature, and marketing, and like nature is all about marketing. They're not sure about marketing. Like a flower doesn't have to like they're marketing, right? I love his perspective. So we had such a great podcast. It trended. I got tons of feedback from it, and he and I got on a call, and he's like, "Yeah, actually, I got a lot of." And I just thought it was because he was so famous,
Yeah.
and still to this day, it's one of my highest performing podcasts, more than Dave Navarro from the Chili Peppers, which I really always bank against him because I'm like that dude has so many followers, right? And so we ended up talking about doing this long form, like you and I are doing, right? Where we just basically came together and started talking about branding, marketing, and business strategy and growth. And then he kind of brings in all this sort of worldly knowledge, and it turned into this long form. It took us 2 years, 25 hours of recordings, and then we edited it down to 15-minute clips. And it's going to be called The Mindful Marketer, and we're launching September the 22nd.
Oh, that's pretty exciting. So that's the stuff that you're working on right now.
I'm working on the promotion of it. So it's all produced, it's all done, it's all tucked inside my training. So I could literally like it's already kind of it's actually active right now. My anyone in my community I'm giving a little early access to. I'm just working on the promotion of it right now, getting ready for
Okay,
the.
so here, this is your platform, Scott. What is the mindful marketer and why would people want it? What is it? What are they going to get from it when they get to the end of it?
Yeah, I think it's giving them permission to think really differently about the way that they want to market. I think a lot of people have a lot of anxiety about when they're marketing, even the marketing themselves. We were talking about personal branding earlier, like people feel that icky feeling,
Mhm.
and it's like giving them ways to look at it and come at everything with intentionality, and being mindful about the word uses. The don't necessarily like it's sort of like kind of being a counter intuitive way from this is what's trending or this is what you should do. It's really what does your heart want to do? What's right? What's more congruent with you, with your values? Which those aren't really new in terms of marketing and branding, but I think for people that want to have a little bit of a like for example, like we're talking about a yoga studio,
Mhm.
and a yoga studio is all about being mindful, and yet they'll maybe they'll do advertising in a way in a funnel. That's not really being super mindful, and it's not. It sort of feels like they're doing one thing out here, and
It's
they're kind of
disconnected.
but their business is like over here, and what I'm trying to what we shared, and a lot of even what my book's about is, you'd be surprised that the more congruent you are, it doesn't necessarily mean the tactic works. Sometimes the congruency is working for you,
Yeah.
and there's a lack of coherence when you're being one way here but you're not being that over here. So we kind of what you're going to get out of it is, especially for someone that feels a little bit sheepish, they maybe are a little bit more of an introvert. I think for introverts it's the ultimate course for introverts and how to market, really. If I that now you just helped me articulate that in this moment.
So that's the story of the five whys. If I ask you to explain something and we dig down why it's important,
Like
why,
that, yeah.
why. So now you've gotten to like, maybe it's a new market you didn't think about tapping into, but marketing for introverts. There's probably a whole pile of people who would love to know how they can do what seems like an extrovert job as an introvert.
And I'm actually kind of what's called that, I'm an ambivert.
Ambivert, yeah.
I think so. Like I can be out, like right now I'm like I can be outgoing, but I need to go back to my cave, and my preference is to be more of an introvert, but I'll force myself to.
Okay, so with this personal branding, what are some of the things you think people get wrong when it comes to their personal brand?
What are some of the things that people get wrong? I
I
think
find, like, in my experience, I find people think of a personal brand as just a logo or just colors, or they think of it in terms of the assets and not the whole. And so, or they think authenticity means showing way too much, coming to the table, showing way too much. There's a disconnection in what people actually understand about personal branding.
yeah, I think like I'll start with the way that people first. What people get wrong is how they think about structuring it. So there's
Okay.
one which is like think of it as fully integrated, where the company you're working with is totally aligned with your personal brand and the same audience that you're trying to reach. Right. That's one. A hybrid is sort of like overlapping, where you're kind of you're the company you're representing or you're working with or whatever. There's some touch points, but you still have another audience over here. There's like, but there's some overlap to a degree.
Mhm.
Or I think a lot of people find themselves and they go, they're confused or they're struggling because they're going, my company or what I'm doing is this, but I want to build a personal brand around this audience. So it's like first knowing which one and being okay with there are three different ways of like looking at the structure of the brand. I always look at it structure, system, strategy. So the next is the system. What you're talking about is some people understand that they think that the personal brand is, well, if I just add a logo and these colors, I think it's, and they kind of feel like maybe it's performative, like for influencers,
Mhm.
when really your personal brand is about coherence. I really do feel that, which is there's a lot of people have great personal brands and they don't have like a really well logo or they don't have like even that good colors, but they have a point of view. So I think it's the three P's: the point of view, your purpose, and your passion. If they come together, that's what can create your personal brand,
Mhm.
because people connect based on a connection and trust. So you don't need to have the over designed stuff. It's more the completion of, are you putting your word out there? Are you showing up consistently in this way? Is it coherent? Does it work together? So I think what people get wrong is they jump to I don't really that they have to go to the design, the identity, the design side of it, and then they spend less time on your point of view, your premise, and all those kind of things. That's where I think the real work is.
Yeah, I find it interesting when people when we have that hybrid moment, and you'll see some business owners, they'll get really wrapped into this idea that, say my logo is a pair of orange glasses, that I should only wear orange glasses. Or, my brand is, blue and green, and so they only dress in blue and green, and they tie so much of what their brand is to the assets and not to like that purpose and that passion, to what the real meaning and essence is behind it is like, I'm about community. It doesn't matter what I'm wearing. It doesn't matter what the colors are that I put on or anything like that. I'm about something more, and getting to that real essence, that personality of who you are as a brand, and showing that instead of relying on just the asset part, the colors, the logo, the icons and all of that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I think that's like the performative side of it, right?
Mm.
The I love Jay Acunzo. He's got this. I've been kind of locking in on his thinking around. It's about premise, right?
Okay.
What is the premise of your? And that's what I've always called my three P's, which is the point of view that you have. What's your point of view on your the audience that you're trying to reach? So first of all, getting clear about who's your audience. Like most people think your personal brand is your audience the company you're working with, or what are you trying to do? Like think about like where are you going as a brand? Like I love this saying, that I put in my book, which is, you know, build an audience before you need to. So who's the audience that you're growing into that you want to create a following, like generationally, type of person, values, or whatever, and that'll help give you some clarity of like how you're going to show up and where you're going to show up too, right? Like there's so many things we need to figure out first. I think people get wrong. They just kind of go, I just want to get as many people following me, and that's not really building a personal brand. It's just building an audience.
And I think people have a big mistake about that. Actually, I love. There's this one study about an influencer that was tasked to sell these T-shirts, and it turned out that they couldn't sell it because we've forgotten that there's a huge gap, or there can be a huge difference between the number of likes on your post or the number of followers that you have and your ability to actually convert those into customers. We can have, I recently just had one of my clients, I had put up a post and it went viral. There's like, I think it's at like 1.6 million likes on it. It is not converted to a sale because it was never intended or designed to convert into a sale. And just because we have that many followers, and it has grown a lot of followers, because we have that, it doesn't necessarily translate into sales. And I think people forget that all of these things can happen without them translating into sales. But understanding who your audience is, what your purpose, your passion, and what you're trying to bring forward, that all matters when you're trying to convert, or even just deciding what is the intention of your personal brand. Is it to actually to sell something? Are you planning on being an influencer, or is it just to be like advocacy or part of the community or just awareness?
Yeah, there's quite a few things to unpack. We said there was really good is the audience attention and likes. Um, look at the election. Like they thought they brought they were going to win the election by bringing all these like influencers in. And if you look at what I think there's been a pushback on influencers.
Mm-hmm.
When people think of personal brands, I think that's where people feel icky. They're like, I don't want to be like that, right? And that's performative. And so in my book that I'm writing right now, Title Shift, is I believe that there's this formula, which used to be that we're leaving. That's why we're in this weird zone right now. It used to be know, like, trust. If people know about you, they're going to like you. So you want to get as many people following you, know, like, then they're going to like you, and then they're going to trust you, and they're going to do something with you. I think it's flipped. I think now it's like it's about smaller micro influencers. It's about circles of trust. The more
Mm-hmm.
people that trust you, they're going to start liking you because they do trust you. They're going to bring other people in, and that's how you're going to be known. And it's sort of more organic. It's sort of old school. It's very word of mouthy. And we're not. I think we're becoming more resiliently skeptical of just because that person has all these followers. That doesn't just suddenly. I don't connect with that person or trust them necessarily, right? Like I'm looking for more trust now, and I think that's what's shifting, and that's why the rise of the micro influencer.
I think influencers have burned us.
Yeah.
We've had people who have had a lot of influence, and I think that's where there's a misleading. The word influencer is misleading because I think influencer is somebody who can drive you to do something, and now we simply have influencers that are, they might be selling us a lipstick. It doesn't make us actually buy it. It doesn't actually influence our behavior, and because they're actually now have to represent themselves as advertising or at that ad as a sponsor, we now know they're making money from it. So it's less influential for us. But we have micro influencers who are this is just something they enjoy. They just
Mhm.
really I think of Nina Poole on TikTok. She just started finding, dupes. She calls them duperoonies of products that some products are wildly expensive, like $100 for a lipstick. And she found the dupe based on ingredients for $5, accessible to a lot of people. Because of that, she has driven up these sales for all of these products. But she actually became an influencer without intention of becoming that. Just coming up with something genuine to do good and drive she essentially started to drive sales, and I think it wasn't not that long ago that she actually got her first sponsor.
That's an example of trust like no.
Yeah.
So with mindful marketer, it's all about intention. See, the intention of if I'm influencing, see, you could be of influence or an influencer. I think influencers are this now you have to disclaim it because you have to show your intention. I'm trying to
Mhm.
make money from this. She wasn't trying to make money. She came by it honestly. You trust her because she's using it. It's the whole I know how you feel found. I'm using it myself. Like as opposed to people faking it, going performatively going, I think this is great, but really they probably never even didn't even like the brand. They're just getting paid by the brand. I think that's what we're pushing up against is we're looking for that authentic intention. What was the intention behind what you're trying to influence or be of an influence of, or even if you're not trying to be of influence, you're just trying to be of help. And I think that's where the intentionality, the mindful marketing piece that from the very beginning I was talking about, that's very much about really going with intention.
Mhm.
What is your intent? Because when people know, think of this, like my wife trusts me, I would, like to think. But if I asked her to go, hey, out of the blue, go, hey, can you move the couch? She's going to go, why?
Mhm.
Not because she doesn't trust me, right? She just wants to know the intention. Like, what are we doing, right? I think that's with anything.
I think so. Last week we were talking a little bit about this Sydney Sweeney, and I love that. After last week, there was tons of conversations about this in
And
different
memes.
angles. Yeah, and when we're talking about influencer, it's funny because I said last week that with this whole Sydney Sweeney has great genes campaign and how people felt about it, there was definitely a lot of marketers and a lot of decision makers involved. I started to think that maybe they did choose her because of her influence, because of her positioning, because of how she represents herself, and that actually lent to that vision of the campaign. And I wondered if the campaign would be equally controversial if it had somebody who was like a master personal brander like Taylor Swift.
Yeah, would know.
Would that campaign have had the same effect,
No.
or is it that we know these two people differently in their personal brands?
Yeah, I don't think it would have been the same. I think that the part of the reason is it was a different cultural field that she's tapping into. That's how she is. It's not just like how she's
Mhm.
performing. So I think that's what's really tapped into that a little bit,
Yeah, I think she's shown some of her personality, and I think that's what drew American Eagle to choose her. And so I think what came of that almost could have been expected.
Yeah, the celebrity. I think the one thing I have a little bit of a struggle with is people relating to when we say personal brands, and then we go and we talk about celebrities because they kind of are a different, like it's a different
Genre.
category, where the everyday person is going, well, like they're going, well, I don't want to be a personal brand. I'm not a celebrity, right? I don't want to be a celebrity. I'm not even trying to be famous. I don't think most people want to build a personal brand want to be famous. I think everybody needs a personal brand because they want to get a better job. You're competing now in this landscape of no longer geographically are you competing against people that are in my city of Calgary. You're now competing against the world because you can
Yeah.
work remotely on Zoom. So the language around personal brand is one of the things I think that people get sort of caught up in is the that's a great example of like how the cultural field and the celebrity personal branding is. And I think a lot of people they just shut off and they go, but I'm not that. I'm not a celebrity. You know
So
what I mean?
how would you tell, an average person, like in the old days before we had a lot of these terms that are used so interchangeably now, I would have said that a personal brand is essentially someone's reputation.
Hmm.
How is it different now?
I think it's going back to the old school. And in fact, I actually think it's like back in the old days back in, we'll say like in the pioneer days, you put your arm around Farmer Bob and you go, "Hey, should I lend my bales to Bill?" You know, he's like, "Well, he's a little slow in paying you, but he's a good guy." You know,
Mhm.
and that's how you would make decisions because you would want someone else that you trusted connected to you in making big decisions or risky decisions. So I feel like that's what's kind of happening on that side of
Mhm.
influence or connecting with people based on trust. That's only one piece of it. The other one is just you going in. It used to be, you put in your application, a resume, or the resume now is who are you? Like it's like because now when someone goes and think about it, if I want to work somebody, I'm going to go, "Oh, I wonder what they're up to in LinkedIn." We all do it. It's social proofing just to see what they're up to, what they're doing. So I think that whether you're trying to get a job, whether you're trying to get on a podcast, um, whether you want to be an influence of your parent teacher committee and stuff, all of it is a personal brand. It's like your reputation combined with how you present yourself. And so what I mean by that is I think when people say authenticity, you got to be authentic self. I don't think I want anyone to be their authentic self that when they are with their best friend on a Friday night. That's a
Mhm.
version of you. We want the best version that's professionally the role that you're trying to fill, right? Like when we're doing brand strategy, right? What is the roles and the jobs to be done? So when you think of personal brands, well, what is the job that you're trying to do with your brand,
Mhm.
right? For me, it's like connecting with strategists and brands and founders, and what's the role? So the role, I'm not in the role of dad here. I'm not in the role of brother or buddy. I'm the role of brand strategist and a founder myself. So does that make sense? Like I feel like that actually helps people a little bit loosen the grip of like I'm not this or where they need to maybe apply the importance of doing a personal brand. I think they think it needs to be a big production. It doesn't.
So I think it's like what you're saying is this combination of people's reputation and how they present themselves.
Yeah, and what I even say, some people's personal brands is that I'm totally not even on social media and I have no presentation. That's a part of personal brand. They're like a stealth brand, Like I think that's totally permissible. It's like there's no rules.
So where do you have people when you're working with a client? Where do you have people start? Like when they're sitting down, they're like, I feel like I need a
Three
personal
P's.
brand.
The first is let's define your purpose. What is your purpose? What's your outcome? What's your epic outcome that you want? Who's the audience you want to serve? I want to start there first because we could design a plan but if it's not attracting or connecting with your audience that you're trying to build or the people you want to influence or what you're trying to accomplish, then it's irrelevant. So first is that, and people need to know your why. Like I love Simon saying, like, what's your why? Purpose. So I feel like when someone's unclear about their purpose and then their premise, the rest doesn't matter. So purpose is like, what am I doing? Why I'm here? I think people want to know, well, why are you connecting with me? Or, that's again, why you move the couch. Premise is, what is your unique point of view?
Mhm.
What is your unique point of view on marketing, advertising, being part of the parent teacher? Like it's a little bit like your unique point of difference, right? Like what's your point of view? People want to work with people that stand for something and have a point of view, and then passion. I think that's one thing that I really think those are the three, that magic three, because people connect on people that are passionate about. It could be dogs, could be
Mhm.
glasses, could be snowboarding. And it's how you can kind of slightly weave that in because it makes us human. So I think it's those three. I kind of get them locked in those three because they're simple. There's other like I still use like the classic branding for large brands, for personal brands, but that's the three that I really with anyone that anyone can relate to. What about you? What do you use?
So I generally have people, if you were not in a room and people were talking about you, what do you wish they were saying about
I
you?
like that question.
And I think that when you can do that, it's the same idea that is at the end of your life, if someone were to write an obituary about you, what do you hope that obituary would say? So if you're working with a brand, whether it's large brand or somebody's personal brand, is what do you wish people were saying about you, or what that you would want them to acknowledge about you? That could be like, oh my gosh, they have the quirkiest sense of humor. Quirky might be one word, and that can start to drive how that's laid out, whether it's in design or, it generally often your unique perspective comes from some aspect of what people see about you as well. So I like to start with that. And then I tell people you cannot choose professional, reliable. You can't use the standard words that you would see on the top of somebody's resume.
That's like saying I'm trustworthy.
Right? Nobody believes you when you
Nobody
say I'm
believes you anyways. Yeah.
trustworthy, right? So, but if people were talking about you, what would they say? Like people, I always said like a little bit strange, a little quirky sense of humor, a little bit off, and I'm like, that's fine by me. I'm happy that people can pick out something that is different about me or odd about me. I get blunt a lot as well, which I think, when I think about how that relates to my purpose and my passion and all that, it means I am very strong about all of those things, right? But it comes across as like blunt or bold. And I think that's good. So if you start to think about that, how you want to be seen, you can come up with some words and then overlay it with like, what are some of the things that you truly care about? That if it was like this or this, it's very obvious what you would select, right? Some people are very much about community. Some people, are not. They're, very much about, just doing a good job or, being highly educated, whatever it is. I'm passionate about this. And within those unique aspects, you can generally lend to who and what somebody is about. So I like to try to get to the core of who people are. And I think that's where people get stuck, is because I call it Instagram face. But in all reality, a lot of what has happened to us is we have begun to like things because we're always facing them, right? I'll ask somebody, do you actually like Birkenstocks? Like, do you really? And sometimes they'll be like, well, yeah, they think they like them because they've seen them on everybody in Starbucks. Like, do you love a pair of Sambas? I think everybody in Starbucks is wearing Sambas right now. Do you actually like them, or is it because they've become so familiar, you've adapted to liking things? And so sometimes it's hard for us to really get to the genuine core of who we are because we're so used to having a world of influence around us that has kind of dictated what we're interested in. So stepping back sometimes can be kind of strange and you look at things kind of differently. But I think we have to every once in a while. When I say Instagram face, I think, because everybody's gotten the same eyebrows, the same eyelashes, and we're all doing the makeup the same. We tend to just start to blend in because of what we're constantly exposed to. So I think those people who don't have social media accounts, I think they can be extremely fascinating because they're not influenced by another perspective as much as the rest of us are.
Yeah, I think that, the presentation of the face, I think I liked how you started this, which
Mhm.
was what are people saying when you leave the room or when you're
Yeah.
not around? Because that's why I talked about the epic outcome is like, what is your epic outcome? And if that's what are people saying when you're not in the room, is I've used to do it like visibility, like sort of attention first, like the presentation is now it's that no like trust now to trust like no. My question would be, what are you going to do to create trust that people that you want to influence just trust you and want to connect with you? That means you have to focus on what you're delivering more than what you're showing. It's not
Mhm.
like what I present, it's more how I deliver, what I show up as. Like, do I like a personal brand? Like for me, if someone goes, well, I want my audience to really feel that I care about them. Great. Are you actually following up and looking on the social channels and liking and commenting? That's actually a form of your reputation, your brand showing up,
Mhm.
versus are you just like waiting for an opportunity to talk?
What are
Are
you
you
doing? Yeah,
right?
that
Yeah.
reinforces it's that same as like you can have your word, but your actions speak louder than your words. So you can say, I want people to, think that I'll show up for them. But how are you actually showing up for them?
Yeah, what are you doing? How are you delivering whatever it is that you're saying and promising you're going to do? In business and in life. I mean, that to me is, and then sometimes shamelessly marketing it. I think that's the thing. Some people have a little bit of shame about like, oh, I just don't want to say that, like they're too shy. And I think when you've done great things, let other people say it for you. That's the best way so literally lean into other people talking about you is the ultimate in reputation building and building a personal brand of trust. And you know what I mean? And sometimes you got to egg it, sometimes you got to prime it. So like, I mean, I did it with you. We did a great job. You've done a couple things with some clients that I put away. I was so grateful. And you didn't ask me, but I posted a comment on your Google.
Yeah.
You
And
didn't
I
ask me,
think
didn't have
that
to.
adds to the credibility,
Yeah.
right? Is a lot of small business owners, actually even like larger business owners, one of the things that they have the biggest challenge with is actually selling themselves or, touting their accomplishments. And sometimes it's not about like saying I've won this or I've done that. It's this is the impact that I have had, right? And reframing that can often be that window to making it a little bit more comfortable. And testimonials, that's social proof. When people talk about you, people have said something about you, your reputation, that social proof is way more valuable. People will trust that social proof from strangers they don't know, a testimonial, an ad from someone they don't know before they'll trust an ad from the business. So that's offers huge credibility.
A lot of companies I talk to and individuals, they're trying to get that proofing, and so they're trying to come up what's the formula for doing it and all this stuff, right? And I know all the tricks, um, but you know what the best one is? Don't just give, like, focus on if you're the one that's actually going out and you're offering, how can I promote you, how can I you just go ahead and do a review or whatever, right? Like, to me it's like there's a people feel a slight obligation sometimes, but it's not a bad way. It's more like you're giving first. I think that's such a great primer for trust when an unasked for review comes your way. And so many people are trying to gamify, like, well, we need to do, like these cards, and I'll give you 20 points, I'll give you $20 gift certificate. It's very transactional,
Mm-hmm.
and so people of reputation don't need to. But I think that the way that they do it is they naturally build a reputation because they're so generous with the same way that they want to receive. They're so generous with the way that they're giving
Mm-hmm.
and putting out there that people feel, that they want to pay you back.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like when you show up, and that's why I call it "Give is the New Get" in my book. Groundswell is because that actually works. It doesn't initially. It doesn't give you a quick hit. It doesn't. It's not a action reaction type of thing. It's a delayed reaction. But I think that people want to build a personal brand. They're willing to play the long game because your reputation gets lost in a moment. Take case in point, the first episode we talked about the scandal of the Coldplay thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
Reputation gone. But it takes years to build a good reputation. And I think there's so much short term thinking. That would be another pitfall, is being too short term thinking with this personal brand,
Mm-hmm.
like really playing a long game with it and being okay with it being maybe, you not getting maybe the visibility you want. But if you're getting the reputation, the relationships, they're getting deeper, I think you're moving in the right direction.
You touched on something that is part of behavioral economics. It's part of psychology,
Okay.
and it's actually the law of reciprocity. So when you give somebody a Google review or you give somebody, that whole, you pay for the coffee for the person behind you, and then that person pays for the coffee.
Mhm.
We have a natural inkling as humans. When somebody's done something nice for us, we have a natural response to want to do something nice back. Charities have actually used this. So often I get these pens in the mail. And I ordered pens once, and now I constantly get pens, right? You feel at some point that you have to return the favor. And that's why I think, much to what you're saying, you're doing it unintentionally. You're like, I just want to do something great, something kind. Well, that just prompts people and inspires people to do something kind back. So what it doesn't matter whatever you call it, there's actually a psychology behind it. And actually, when I was at Harvard, we were talking about our final project was on reviews and how to get more Google reviews, how to get more testimonials, and all of that. But I think that doesn't matter what your strategy is if you're doing great work, great work comes. People want to share. People want to talk about great work. People want to talk about great people that they're working with. So there is no better way to build a personal brand than to build and be the person that deserves to have those kind of things said about them. Those things that you want people to say about you when you're not in the room.
It's like these unseen things. That's why I like this thing I'm doing with Master Co or Guru Singh, because he's talking about these ancient wisdom applied to modern times, and that law of I can't even say that word, by the way.
Reciprocity.
I know I can't say it. It's one of those words that I'm like, I just don't even utter it because I can't. And the laws of the universe, and I would challenge somebody to do a test. I've done this a few times, and it's like do something like that, but then do it with expectation,
Mm-hmm.
and do it another time without expectation, and you'll find that there's a difference. I can't explain it. There's a lot of things that we as marketers and business people want everything to be logic based, but there is more too. That's why my book's about the unseen wave of business growth, because if you're willing to tap into the field of beyond that, you are tapping into things that are far more powerful than data driven metrics of marketing: action, reaction, result. To me, it's like it's the most powerful way of really opening up your mind and actually creating an aura. Like, if you think of a personal brand, some people have aura, like they have like this like energy, this energy state, and then and to me it's very it's magnetizing,
Mm-hmm.
and you can't manufacture that. And I think at the basis is about, you have so much abundance to give, you have so much value to share, and you're doing it out of true service, not going, if I post these 5 posts, then I'm going to get a client. Like, I think that if you really get out of that loop, you start really get tapping into what do people really need, not what do they need to hear, and I'm hoping to get this outcome. And that's, I think, a more powerful personal brand.
Yeah, I think when people start to look at social media as, instead of the three, top hooks, or this, just trying to get people, and start to look at how can I be of service on social media? How can I offer something? How can I show who I am and earn that trust and that transparency, and allow people to get to know me and my personal brand? I think that's when you'll start to see the change happen and things come back to you. I've been on social media for a long time, and I get a bunch of business from social media. And it's not because I'm always touting what I do, who I am, or anything like that. I'm just offering information, offering insight, offering things of value. I say the general rule is 80% of your content should be of value to your audience. 20% can be promotional, but 80% should just be of value.
Yeah, it's the Gary V, jab, jab, right hook.
Oh, yeah, right hook.
There's one brand's person that I really acknowledge that I get. It's like, and it's going to go to this next discussion called vibe and coherence.
Okay.
Is Chris Do. Like, Chris Do
Oh,
is
yeah.
huge. He's got 1 million followers, and I interviewed him, and I've gotten to know him, and I've been following him relentlessly, and he shows up genuinely. The feeling I get is he's so genuinely just like, helpful. He's not really over, like he's sharing what he's offering as a point of reference, but he's like, really, how he shows up is the feeling I get is genuinely he cares and he wants to make a difference, and it just, I can feel it, and I see his success is because of it. And one of the things that I think you can call it architect, but it's like that's where brand coherence comes in, is the vibe. What is the vibe? The brand mantra. What in regular branding? What's the feeling you want people to have interaction? The brand vibe for personal brand is, what's the vibe you give off? And it's like doing a check, like what kind of vibe are you really? What's the vibration that you're giving? What are you emanating, and sort of how does it show up? And if he was one way, or if someone's, I'm doing this educational, but I'm like not that over here. There's like red flags. Like, we have this little filter. We're looking for
A
patterns that
disconnect.
don't connect, right? We're pattern searching all the time, right? Pattern matching. And so I think that coherence, been very coherent consistently over time. And I really like him as a personal brand example in our category of like, fucking hats off, dude. Like, I think he's like legend status. Like, I study what he does because I think he just puts the right vibe out.
I think we noticed that too, and I think that's where, further to our conversation last week, is that's where AI doesn't feel the same to us. Is especially when we're building our personal brand, right? This is about being who we are. When people start to become too dependent on these other tools that, oh well, this I had somebody on TikTok that was like, "Oh, you could be famous if you had the right hook." Well, my brand and who I am, I'm not about the hook. If you want to listen to what I have to say, you can listen to what I have to say, but I'm not going to come in with a hook that feels artificial. And I think that's when we're building our personal brand and we sit there, we have that the Instagram influence or the influence of everybody else. It's really hard and we're in a very noisy place to listen to who we are. And that's why I think like looking at what people would say if you were not there, it's quiet, right? You can just it's just silent, but we get so influenced by what we should be doing, what people are telling us to do, what the platforms are suggesting, that we forget that our personal brand can break through that all, because when we're actually genuine within our personal brand, we're connecting with people naturally. We're finding our people. You're finding what resonates, you're finding the conversation, you're finding your place, you're breaking through even the algorithmic rules because you found your audience. I think there's a lot of people who've broken the rules of what they should be doing, faceless accounts. There's one of my favorite ones that I religiously watch is Sunday Podium on Sunday. And it's a girl that talks about the F1 drivers and different angles. She's never put her face up. She finally just told us is that, she has no intention on doing it. But she's been very genuine, very consistent, has shown up, has been neutral, provides tons of information with a sprinkle of her own opinion that is very creative and very clever. I think, we don't have one set way that works with your personal brand to break through. It's about you finding what resonates, what feels authentic, what feels genuine, and listening to your own noise, not the noise that's out there.
I'm glad you said noise and voice. So she's using you've heard her, but you haven't seen her. Is that right?
Yeah, she just talks over a green screen of
You
videos.
know, so I did one of the books I was gonna write, I just have shelved it. It's called Sound Waves. And I used to open up these rooms when COVID was around sound. And
Yeah.
so I would draw in these experts into the room, and we'd have these discussions. And I had some crazy, really cool people in the room. And one of them was former FBI or something. And he said in there, he goes, "Do you know that our body, humans, we can detect lies if we only hear the audio?" And I'm
Ooh.
like, "What?" Because he goes, "I would think that you get the cues of that my touching my face, am I looking to the left, all that stuff." He goes, "No, it's actually an everyday person can sense a lie better if it was just straight audio." And what was interesting about the time of COVID was that we had this, like, we would never meet these people, but I'd have these deep relationships by conversation. And there's something about the voice. I think that when people hear the texture, the tone, not something that you can't hide, and it doesn't lie like the sound of your voice, than posting a post. And I think when I did my own podcast, I could have done videos because I had my own video production company right from the get go. For the first 3 years or 4 years, I did audio only, and it wasn't only until I kind of felt like I was not really being up with times that I changed to video, and I could promote it on YouTube, and I'm glad I did. But the truth is, the first little bit of actually doing the audio, I had this really crazy experience. I'm in New Jersey at a conference in New Jersey. I'm staying at this crummy hotel because that's all they had in New Jersey to go to the conference. And I was late for the thing, and I'm like, "Oh, hey, can you hold the elevator for me?" There's two guys in the elevator. The guy turns around, he goes, "Groundswell?" And I'm like, "What?" Never in a million years did I ever think that my voice, it's the only time it's ever happened. So I'm like,
Yeah.
it's my one story of this voice thing, right? And I get in the elevator and like, this is the guy from Groundswell. And they're both talking to me. And I'm like, "Yeah, I'm from Groundswell." Like, and because they recognized my voice and they're so excited to meet me, I ended up, talking with them and stuff. And all to say that I feel like voice is probably one of the most underutilized pieces of personal branding that people should really be thinking about is saying, like, just saying it. This isn't about being in front of video, even like you just, that the example you're giving me,
Mhm.
I think you can get it with just voice. I think that can be powerful. And so one of the things I recommend to people when they're trying to build relationships, like say on LinkedIn, leave a voicemail. It's so more interesting and more personal, and it's a way to build rapport and build trust and just a little connection deeper. And as a personal brand, that's what I do, and I feel it just works magic
I
compared to
think
just
we could have a
cold post.
whole episode
On
on
audio.
sound,
Oh
on
yeah.
audio. When I was at the Cult Gathering last year, same thing. But there was a whole session. Like we all know the dong dong, the Netflix noise,
Hmm.
right? We know the Apple. We these sounds become so much of a part of these brands. Same thing with us, with our voice, and we can just be drawn to it. There's this thing. A couple of times you've mentioned alluded to how to nature and marketing. It's biomimicry. And if we actually study biomimicry, we can understand different aspects of marketing and how it does relate to nature. I think there's so much to that, and that's probably a whole nother
Oh,
episode. But
biomimicry could be a whole episode. I mean, my whole book,
oh my gosh.
Groundswell, is biomimicring the how waves function and how you create extendable growth, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, sound, and that's another one. Sound, we could go down this rabbit hole right now. Like sound is so interesting to me. Like it's there's a resonance and a frequency, right, of sound. They had this other expert in there that was actually working to create. No, if NICU, you know NICU when babies are like brand
Yeah.
new, like the sounds in there, they're actually really aggressive. And we had a niece that was in NICU, like really, really early NICU, and Jill was going in there and supporting them to go to the hospital, like just to show up and stuff. And she said she had like just the sounds and stuff. And I remember when she came home with a couple of the medical devices, and I'm like, oh my god, this is like so loud. And like, oh, this is nothing compared to the NICU. Anyways, this guy was in my room, and he goes, I'm actually changing the sounds to so that they heal rather than hurt. And right now, all the sounds that are in NICU are really aggressive. In
Hmm.
the same room, on the same day, this guy goes, "Hey," he goes, "We've been working with the Michelin chef in England, and what we do is we change the music and people's the taste of what's in their mouth when we kind of choreograph it or whatever. I didn't quite understand what he's doing, but it sounds like the flavor changes based on the sound. This is how much like this audio is like so interesting to me. I think it's a whole realm of possibility. And if you think of where we're going with audio, how many kids don't type in anything? They go, "Hey, da da da
Yeah.
da." It's how do we show up as a personal brand in the world of no screens?
But if you think about it from its core, from just down to the very core, when it comes to sound, when we hear our spouse, we hear our child, we hear our parent's voice, there's an instant calming, there's an instant attachment.
Hmm.
So it would make complete sense if we actually looked at and thought about our voice or a sound connected to us so that our audience could connect to that as well.
Do you have an
Far
audio? Do
beyond
you
the
have a
visual.
sonic brand? Do you have like this audio, like a Stinger or audio
I
sound?
don't, but I guarantee it would be something that sounds like the 90s. I totally like I do have I'm gonna just spin here. This clock,
Hmm.
it clacks behind me all day long, and I love the sound of it. It's so traditional, just the flipping noise. It's soothing
Interesting.
to me now. But you get so used to it, right? But I and like, I've got the phone, like I can hear in my head what it sounds like when you're spinning those dials. We
Interesting.
do have such a
That's
strong
a great
memory.
story. You got to do something with that.
Yeah, we do have such a strong association with some sounds. And like car guys will know all the sounds of the different engines and things. So there's definitely something I think that, brands, whether personal brands or bigger brands, just considering what could be a sound association for us.
I have one.
What's that?
It's the ping. If you listen to my podcast, listen
Oh
to any
yeah.
YouTube, it's the then it's a I literally went through about 40 or 50 sonic pings. So the sonic ping underwater for
Mhm.
for a submarine, like the ping, and I actually found the exact one I liked, and then I layered it. I layered two or three, I think, on top of it, so it gave a deeper sound. And
Yeah.
that is, I've actually got it now. It's like that's my ping. If you listen to my podcast, or if you go to my, actually, literally, if you go to my Groundswell on LinkedIn, my page, I just uploaded a video, and you'll hear the ping, ping right at the very beginning, and that's my. It's that underwater. So I was trying to go, how does water and sound?
Sound.
What would it be? I was originally kind of thinking about like dolphins or something, but it's like no, I wanted something that's like that's me ping into the world, you know. So it's that's my sound. That's my sonic
It's
sound.
very appropriate.
Well, it's like kind of like your personal brand. It's like now there's a story to it, right? I think that's
Yeah.
the intentionality of like the mindful marketer and building a personal brand is people love it when there's more story. Like you, the way you just described your phone, the clock, and now if you were to integrate that, that becomes the tapestry of your brand. That becomes like kind of there's more meaning to it. Then someone goes, I think it's a cool stinger, right? Like someone just goes and finds a really cool stinger because they think it's going to be wonderful. It's more interesting when someone, it's when, especially a personal brand, when there's like, this reminds
Layered.
me of my grandma's door closing. And
Yeah.
that's actually the sound that I like. Jill, my wife, she has this recording of these birds when we were in Matapalo, which is the south of Costa Rica, and she loves this brown sound, and she actually has that as her alarm every morning. It's like she loves birds and bird sounds. It's just like a bird, nut and stuff. And I imagine her personal brand's probably gonna have a chirp, of some kind.
I think it's really important for people to realize when it comes to their personal brand that there is more than visual. We just touched on audio, but what about, olfactory,
Hmm.
right? When my husband owned Trident, one of the things that was really important, we put music in the car washes. Trident was a car wash. But the other thing is that all of the soaps had smell, and the smell would change seasonally. So not only like you might have cherries in the summer and like strawberries in the fall or whatever it was, you tended to like start to think about this, and it layered on the experience. And so when we're thinking about a personal brand, you know what your wife smells like. The smell of her shampoo, all of that. We forget that we have five senses. So we can take our personal brand and we can layer in more things. We all have our signature scent.
It's funny because I actually was Base Camp, one of my brands I'm working with. I don't. They didn't do it, but I found a place that actually has men's cologne that smells like two-stroke engine.
Fantastic.
Well, I got a lot of like loggers and stuff, and I love the smell of two-stroke. Like smell of two-stroke and cut wood. Oh my goodness, I
Oh,
love it.
grass. I love
What's that?
grass. I love freshly cut grass.
Freshly cut grass, like yeah, and smell like if you think of even describe. So when someone goes, well, I'm not really going to start like having a perfume for my brand. No, actually, there's another way that smell can enter your brand. Describe it.
Hmm.
Like use that as part of your description of who you are and stuff. And I know I'm getting kind of like crafty artsy about your personal brand, but the truth is like if you're not having fun, you don't have the energy for it. Like there no like if you have no meaning, how's it have meaning to someone else? If you don't,
Hmm.
if when you show more intentionality and thinking and planning, not to be of like to make it sort of I'm a big deal, but more about authentically you.
Hmm.
Authenticity, I think, is that's what we're talking about with authenticity. Is like how can it be you? Like it's like unmistakably, and remarkably you. And you bring me there with all my senses.
Yeah.
Aesthetic Intelligence, that book that I think did I tell you about that? Did we talk about aesthetic intelligence?
Yeah, yeah, we did. I was gonna say when you're talking about telling someone about your brand, Scott, I'll tell you, a lot of your brand I can smell. When I think of the waves crashing, I can hear that noise, but I can also smell salt water, right? So sometimes it's what our brand is all about and the visuals that we choose. If I were to show you, antique phones and cassettes and, old clocks, you could almost smell the dust. We know what old smells like. If I showed you an old box of Nerds, you can smell the sugar and grape, right? So even just the images that we choose,
Describe
the
me. Yeah,
references, we can get the smell from them. We can get the
totally.
sounds of them, we can get the smell from them. But do you want to
Beautiful.
get into that book?
Yeah, like the aesthetic intelligence
Mhm.
is. Do I have a copy of it right here? Oh, I didn't have one handy, but otherwise I'd pull it up. It's written by Pauline Brown, who's the former chairman of Louis Vuitton Group. I did a podcast with her, and we talked about this aesthetic intelligence and how she has broken down how you actually create taste
Mhm.
and for fashion. And she actually has a tastemaker certification course that I went through. It was really interesting because here I am again, Neanderthal with chainsaws and things like that. And I'm in this whole course with all these like beautiful women from like Milan and Brazil, and they're all like fashion stuff, and I'm totally like, well, how do you make this? And it was cool. They had like Donna Karan and different like famous fashion people, and what really struck me was how constructed and intentional every design, especially scents, like even perfume has a three-part mix. One something familiar, something new, and something something. I can't remember what the third was, but like and it has to have those three ingredients to be a successful fragrance. Like,
Hmm.
in all these different senses, she's broken it down. Like, it's actually like it's constructed, and it's really impressive. How much thought goes into it. It's not just like they randomly create these things. It's amazing, the texture, the feeling, the sound. They have a whole process for all these. So in her book, she describes the importance of it in terms of building a brand, building products. It's incredible. It's like opened my eyes. Like, that's why I got really into all the other senses in branding, because I'm like, wow, I didn't even think of that.
Yeah.
It's a
I
great
think by
episode. I can put it in the show notes, the episode. What's that?
I think by layering all of it in, it really just connects us to the brand on different
And I
levels.
think it makes it fun. Like, I think that's, if you like spaghetti and the smell of spaghetti, like, why not make that part of what your brand is? Like, why not? It's got to make sense though. That's the coherence piece, right?
Like Eminem.
Like what?
Like Eminem.
I
He
don't
has
know.
his own spaghetti restaurant.
Oh,
Mom's
okay.
spaghetti,
So it's coherent. There's the coherence
right?
then, right? It's a there's connective tissue. It makes sense, right? Like,
Hmm.
if you love coffee and you're always having a cup of coffee and you're on your show, like, and you talk about coffee, like, I love surf art. I love, I see my surf art here and stuff, and I that's another area of influence. I got one of the largest communities in the world around surf art. I don't, I'm not selling anything. But it's connected to my brand. It's still part of
Hmm.
surfing, so it's like, but it's true to me, and I'm gonna,
Yeah.
I like surf painting too.
Well, where do you want to leave on, Scott?
Oh yeah, that hour went fast. I was kind of
It always
just
goes
get in the
fast.
zone with you, and I'm just chatting and stuff. I think probably just like, let's land the plane for, like, I think we're talking about personal branding is sort of the essence of it, and maybe the mindful marketing is being mindfully intentional about your brand, and be a little unapologetic. Be a little bit, I think if you want to be successful with your personal brand, you need to lean into you,
Hmm.
and that quirky you, the sometimes the odder the better in some ways, right? I think that's that, like an odd thing. I'll tell you right now that no one, I've never told anybody this. This is a really odd thing for me. It happens randomly. It's about everything we're talking about. Is sometimes we'll have a scene on a movie, like it'll be barbecue or something, and I'll go, oh my god, I can smell it right now. And it's out of the blue, and it's, swear to God, it's like I can really smell it. And Joe's like, "Oh my God, like you have some sort of weird sense." And it's weird. It happens when I least expect it, and it's not the same thing. It's not food. Sometimes it's like on a movie, and someone's cutting grass. I'm like, "Oh my God, I smell cutting grass." I don't know what that is, but that's a quirky thing about me. I randomly see something and I actually smell it. I have no idea. I can't explain it. Someone's gonna think I'm a total weirdo for that, but that's something quirky about me. Hey, like, by me sharing that, that maybe brings you closer to me, and you kind of go, wow, like, I have some. We all relate to these little things that are just make us uniquely us, and I think that's my point of lean into it, but don't lean into it where it's random. It doesn't connect the dots. The most important thing is it coherent? Does it work together? Is it telling a story? And are you really, what are you really intentionally trying to create? When you're trying to build a personal brand, we all want to be successful. We all want to get as much influence as we can. But instead of trying to fill a stadium and try to do what you think you need to do and following all these tools with rules and algorithm and marketers that have these templates, how about just fill a row? If you think of a room, like a 30-person in room, that's a pretty influential. I think that I've heard multiple times. If you build a community and it's a 30 people, you will eventually build a great community. And I've
Hmm.
heard that same over again about 30 people. Find 30 people that are part of your inner circle to build your personal brand, your reputation around. And that's where I would have anyone start. How can you have 30 people just be your, call it raving fans, that just
Yeah,
trust you, and they like you and they want to share so that you get known?
I like that. I would finish by saying, I think you should build your personal brand for you. You should build it because you love it. You want it. You will naturally find an audience as long as you're being authentically yourself, honest, transparent, all of that kind of thing. But build it for you, enjoy it. You'll love it then instead of feeling the pressure of doing it for performative reasons.
Perfect way to wrap that.
Yeah.
That was awesome. Thank you. This
Thanks.
is episode number 2 of Rip Currents. It's only a second time doing this. By the way, I was listening to Joe Paluzzi's their marketing yesterday. They're at 492, and I'm like, we're at
We're
2.
at two
So, anyways,
for us.
thanks again. Thanks everyone for listening, and we'll talk to you
Thanks,
soon.
everyone.
Bye.